lost mine in the sand. Where will you stand?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, hello. You guys every week it's something new.
Well, I got to tell you, it's, I think it was the old Saturday Night Live, Rosanna Dana.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like, if it's not one thing, it's an, okay. So here it is. And I just posted something on Facebook a few hours ago. It's a picture of Netanyahu holding up a piece of paper and the famous photograph of Neville Chamberlain returning to the UK, saying that he's brought peace in his time. Um, so of course the big item is, so what's going on with this ceasefire? Um, let's start with the potential good elements.
Okay.
Let's discuss what really has happened to make this occur. And thirdly, what do I see coming out of it?
Ah, the moment
Okay.
we're all waiting for.
Yeah, this is like really exciting. And it actually ties in with something else that I wanted to bring up, which hopefully we'll get to. I'll go through this quickly. So you've got Netanyahu patting himself on the back, talking about how badly we've beaten Hezbollah, how we've defanged Hamas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and people left scratching the back of their head saying, well, wait a second. Even the most optimistic of Israeli military analysts, and there are a few, strangely enough, hopefully soon to be an extinct species, because we just keep misreading our
Yeah,
enemies,
yeah.
have said that we've set Hezbollah back 20 years. Now, for some people, let's assume that that's true. For some people, that's like, okay, good. Well, we've got reservists who've spent 300 days,
Yeah.
on active duty in Gaza or Lebanon, et cetera. I, of course, as I always do, look at things differently. And I say, well, in 20 years, my grandson Yoni is going to be in the IDF. So I've got a whole different way of viewing this.
Yeah.
Okay, now, supposedly there are all these different steps and countermeasures, and you've got the Americans involved. All of a sudden, you've got Macaroon and the French involved again. Yes, I know his name is Macron, but I just want to be facetious. And we're promising, Netanyahu promises us, this is the man that has blocked an official inquiry to what happened on October 7th, 2023.
Yeah.
So his promises don't weigh very much, on my scale. He promises that, if they violate the ceasefire, we're going to go back in. Now, I'm old enough to remember another prime minister, Yitzhak Rabin. Now, Rabin at the time, and by the way, in case our listeners are saying he's mispronouncing it, no, no, no. In English, everyone always says Rabin.
Rabin, yeah.
Here it's Rabin. Um, anyway, he's the one who assured us that the Oslo Accords were not irreversible. And he said, should the so-called Palestinian Authority, he didn't say so-called, should the Palestinian Authority violate the accords, we're going to roll the tanks back in, which of course never happened.
True.
So this idea of, and okay, so in 60 days, we'll be back from the border. Now you have to understand something. The Israeli population does not have faith in our political or military leadership. The IDF leadership was telling all the residents of the North for years, y'all don't have to worry about a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, it was a flimsy fence with a chain linked, padlock, while they were preparing a whole invasion, which, but for the grace of Hashem, we preempted and they didn't get to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm beyond livid, but the reality is it's, we're coming up to Yaakov and Esav in the Torah,
I
Jacob
was
and
going to
Esau.
mention that.
Okay. Brilliant minds think alike.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, blind Yitzchak is touching. So wait a second. The hands are the hands of Esav, but the voice is Yaakov. So we've got Netanyahu talking about as if we did this, and it's all the American puppet masters that are doing this. America has been holding back weapons that we've desperately needed. We desperately need to restock. Iran, remember, remains the largest threat. And it appears, and I even saw a quote from Senator Ted Cruz, that what America threatened was orchestrating a UN Security Council arms embargo on Israel,
Mm,
which meant that there wouldn't be a single element from anywhere in the world available. So
wow.
this is all that's going on. Um, when it was clear that Donald Trump won the election, I said to people, it's a long time between now and the third week in January.
True.
Biden and crew can still do, and they are doing. This is potentially a huge disaster for Israel. I have to be very open with everybody. We have much of the north that is scorched earth. Assuming Hezbollah stays beyond the Litani River. And again, the technology of weapons in 2006 and going into 2025 is very different.
Totally.
That
Yeah.
doesn't buy us much space. We have no guarantee that, again, remember, all of the residents of the North, they had to flee for their lives overnight. So it's incredibly depressing. On the other hand, people saying, well, maybe we won't lose as many soldiers. I mean, we just had a situation. There was a soldier that was very badly wounded on October 7th,
Hmm.
and he fought and fought and fought. I mean, and he just passed away. By the way, another resident of Modi'in,
Wow.
another guy from Modi'in. They had the funeral here this morning. It's never ending. And the perfidy, the treachery of the American government has no limits. It knows no bounds. And those that made this decision within the American government, I truly, truly hope that Hashem gives them what they deserve.
Mm.
And that would not be pretty. So that's the big news of the day. It's you can read all the details on any of the Israeli news sites.
Yeah.
It's a 60-day phased withdrawal from southern Lebanon, supposedly UNIFIL troops. Who's kidding who? And the Lebanese army, again, Lebanon has an army, not as big as Hezbollah, but they have an army, armed by the Americans, by the way. Um, will suppose and the best part is no weapons can be manufactured or brought into Lebanon except with the okay of the Lebanese government. Now, how we're going to enforce that, I have no idea.
Well, probably the probably the UN peacekeepers will be able to do that, Hanok. I mean, let's just face it. As you and I know, we've been up to Mount Bental numerous times, and we've watched those guys. And there's no female tourists right now for them to gawk at. So they have to have something to do. So I'm sure this is going to work out a lot better this time because they won't be distracted.
It's the kind of thing that really makes my head want to explode.
Yeah, yeah.
That ties in with are we frozen,
I think you are just a second there.
Mike?
It was, yeah, we're back. I can hear you. Yeah, there you are.
Are you unfrozen?
Yeah, yeah, we're had a little it
Are
says
we
we were
back?
yeah, it said we were unstable. We knew that. Sorry about that, Hanok. I just got a text and email from Frontier that said that they had restored my internet connection and it shut down. So I had to switch over a little bit here. You were talking about we talked about that. It just said we were unstable. We knew that. Um,
Yeah.
but then you said
Okay.
something about one of the congregations, something.
Right. One of the congregations that I regularly speak at every time I'm in America sent a group here. They had 10 people and they were volunteering to serve and support is what they, referred to their group doing. And they did a variety of volunteer activities while they were here. And we had a chance to get together and talk a little bit. And one of the questions that I was asked was, do you think that, now again, this is before the ceasefire, but do you think with all that Israel's been experiencing, that Israel is now reconsidering deals, agreements, treaties, ceasefires? Like is Israel about to revisit everything? And I smiled as broadly as I could, and I said, absolutely not. And they were shocked. And you see, part of the problem that we all have, all of us who love Israel, is we kind of broadcast or transpose what we feel or know would be best for Israel on our reality. Because my follow-up to that question was, you mean like the Oslo Accords?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, perfect example. There is no one in the Israeli government, no one, and I don't mean in the cabinet, I mean in the 120 seat member Knesset, that would seriously be saying, you know what? We're going to kick out the so-called Palestinian Authority. We're going to take direct rule responsibility for 1.5 to 2 million Arabs who call themselves something called Palestinians, and we're going to turn the clock back. You can't. That's not the way the world operates. Even though you and I and countless others would probably say that would be like one of the best things Israel could do. Not going to happen.
Well,
The other thing,
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll put in mind after you
They,
finish your thought.
okay, so they visited a group that supposedly works to support Aliyah in Israel.
Hmm.
Now, this is a group of Messianics slash Christians slash Hebrew roots people.
Yeah.
And this group has already been exposed as being missionaries,
Hmm.
that they'll have like activities for Israeli soldiers, and they'll be spending their time witnessing to them. Okay? Not a great situation. But the point is, someone there speaking authoritatively said that they and other groups like them in Israel are in the midst of preparing because in 2025 there will be 1 million new immigrants to Israel. They're telling me this. And I said, are you even aware how far that is from any reality? 1 million. I said, where are 1 million people going to come from? The largest Jewish community in the entire world outside of Israel is the United States of
Yeah.
America, which last year, 3,130 Jewish immigrants came. Now, we had also 20,000 from Russia. I'm sure that's, due to the war with Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine. It would, for 1 million new immigrants, you would need about 950,000 American Jews to make Aliyah in 1 year. Never going to happen. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a
and,
stretch.
and, and
Yeah.
people talk about this as if it's like kind of like me saying, wow, Mike, I think you should wear a blue shirt. And you're like, I am, Hano. Well, there you have it. See, I told you you'd look good in blue.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this organization. I believe they're based up north. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, just that was a hint, folks. just a hint. Okay, they're based up north, and I've been associated with just the from a outside looking in over the years, and I
Yeah,
have seen a great amount of hype, basically hype.
absolutely.
And then this whole thing and people believe everything. I want to go to something, hello, that's
Yeah,
you went over. We look at the people in the Knesset, 120 seats,
correct.
that I know of. There are very few that think biblically. Would that be a
No, I wouldn't say that because there are quite a number of religious members of Knesset, including Haredi, ultra-Orthodox. There are right-wing religious um, people very involved in building up Judea and Samaria.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't paint such a broad brush.
Okay, okay.
Because, and
That's
again, then we'd have to get into the issue of, well, what does thinking biblically mean?
And there that would be another conversation for us, and
Yeah,
maybe that's a Greenville to Franklin conversation for us to have. This would be like me saying there's few people in the Republican Party that think biblically. Okay,
I
again,
have no
we
idea.
would have to have a different conversation on that. So
Yeah,
there's some of our just differences in how we look at things. Okay,
right.
with that being said, going back to something you talked about, that this is the Torah portion of Jacob and Esau. So we're in these three Torah portions during this time of so-called ceasefire. That our characters are Lavan, who is his name means white, kind of a false godliness. We've got Jacob and Esau. And so this is about something going on behind the scenes. Now, I say all that to bring out some. I read a psalm this morning. I've been reading through Psalms, and it's fascinated me this time more than it ever has. But I came to Psalm 83. In Psalm 83, I had written sometime years ago that this psalm is a prayer for the land and people of Israel.
Okay.
Okay. And you can go back and look at it later. It says, Elohim, Hashem, don't remain silent. Don't stay quiet, Hashem, or still, because here are your enemies causing an uproar. Those who hate you are raising their heads, craftily conspiring against your people, consulting together against those you treasure. And the word that I had underlined here is the word craftily, which is the same, it has the same root word. There is a vav added or subtracted from in this use of it, as opposed to Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, where it says the serpent was more crafty or subtle
Right.
than the
Right.
others. Hano, you and I share something, maybe from different aspects, different views, where I'm looking at one facet, you're looking at another facet, but it's of the same rock, okay?
Right.
In that this is something that the enemy, you can call ceasefire all day long. They don't cease. They're not going to cease with their craftiness. They are not. There is only one way for this war to be victorious, and that is for the enemy to be dead. And that may sound really harsh to some people, but I'm going to be teaching on this as soon as I get off with you. I'm going to be teaching my own program. I'm running late this week, but that there is a war around us. If we don't understand that heavenly realm, you can make bad decisions upon in this earthly realm.
Yeah, it's there's so much happening behind the scenes
Yeah.
or under the table or in any way that you want to describe it. Um, we seemingly have allowed the Americans to snatch victory from our hands. And when I say the Americans, I'm referring to the American government,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
people, of course. Um, all the lofty statements that we've been hearing for 13 months. We're gonna this and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna turn Lebanon into, it's gonna, well, you know what? The country of Lebanon has not been turned back to the Middle Ages. We have, Baruch Hashem, successfully blunted Hezbollah. We've wiped out several levels of their leadership. We've destroyed many of their rockets and abilities to produce and fire rockets at us, etc. But they're not dead,
Mm-mm.
and they still remain part of the Lebanese government. It's a very complex situation. Now, it's like someone asked me just the other day also, what about the hostages?
Yeah.
And now they're talking about, once again, that there are probably not more than 50 left alive, not 101. And I said, the American approach, the American governmental approach, was to pressure Israel more, which is ridiculous and
Yeah.
insane. But this is what Israel should do. And it's not going to happen. But this is what Israel should do. And I don't think the American government would have stood by and allowed this. But Israel should have turned, instead of the tentacles of the octopus, gone right for the head, Iran, and said, here's the deal. Here's the time frame. Hezbollah stops firing rockets. The Houthis, everyone else, Hamas releases the hostages by such and such a date and time. If that does not happen, we will again fly to Iran and we will begin taking apart your country, your economy, your nuclear program, your military facilities until you do it. That would have been the only hope, in my opinion, that we would get any of these hostages back.
Well, that would have been a very good idea on October 8th, actually the afternoon of October 7th. And it's still a pretty good idea today because you're
Well,
right.
it's actually it's a better idea because we've struck Iran
Yeah.
and we've taken out their defenses. So they're pretty much they're laying there right now.
Yeah, they're blind.
They're open. But we didn't. We're not
But
going to.
government is it is, and what America is doing. I'm with you. American government. I don't believe it's Biden himself personally. He had a hard time yesterday pardoning a turkey. So I don't think that he has, that much going on for him. So, well, a little different note. So Israel, of course, does not celebrate Thanksgiving as such as we do in America, but you guys have one up on us because you are the largest consumer per capita of turkey.
On a yearly basis, hands down, no matter what damage the Americans will do this Thursday on Thanksgiving, we Israelis still lead the world in per capita consumption of turkey.
Yeah. And if my Hebrew is right,
Our ovens aren't even big enough to cook an entire turkey the way most Americans do.
That's true. You would have to have either a baby turkey or a chicken to fit in that oven. There's no way that anybody could do that.
Hearts.
So, yeah. And the Hebrew word for turkey is
Hodu,
which is the Hebrew word for give thanks.
India. Well, yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, we also refer to the country of India as Hodu. Yeah.
Hodu. Yeah. So, all right. I guess we could go somewhere with that, but we probably shouldn't.
A lot of things we shouldn't do, Mike. A lot of things.
But we do anyway. All right, man. Have a good one. And we'll see how this thing goes.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
All right.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.